Let's get busy. You are now tuned in to the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve is yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, we're not done. You get a huge dose of personal initiative, which is the go-getter energy that moves you to make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. We put all this together into one bundle, one mindset, one philosophy, one book, one show, one method. This is known as Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day. Welcome to the show. Congratulate yourself on making an excellent decision on being here, because today's topic, preparation, is the separation. The preparation that you choose to do is the separation that separates you from the competition. And as always, if you're new to the show, I will explain to you exactly what that means as we get into today's topic. Let's first of all get the definition of this word preparation. This is a word that it's meant a lot to me in terms of me creating my success, me creating my growth and my advancements in life, so much that I have it. It's one of the 4 words that's tattooed on my left arm next to energy, persistence, and boldness. So the definition of preparation is the action or process of making ready or being made ready for use or consideration. Let me say that one more time. Definition of preparation. If you have never looked up the definition, even though you may feel you're very familiar with the word, it is the action or process of making ready or being made ready for use or consideration. Preparation, ladies and gentlemen, is merely an offspring of discipline. When you are a disciplined individual, you will prepare ahead of time. When you are enacting discipline in your life, you will be prepared even without thinking about the fact that you're being prepared. You will be prepared just by default because of the fact that you're utilizing this discipline that we talk about at the opening of this show every single day. The discipline to show up every single day to do the work, whatever the work may be. If you're showing up every single day to do it, you're going to be prepared, guaranteed. And why is that? Why is it that people who have discipline also will be prepared? And why people who have discipline, people who, if you ask them, are you a very disciplined person? Anybody who would say yes, and or you, by what you've seen, your observation of that person, you can see that they're a very disciplined individual. They value this whole act of preparation. And why is that? Well, today, that's exactly what you're going to learn. So listen up closely. If you listen to this show and don't take notes, then I would suggest you start taking notes when you listen to what you're hearing here on the show, because this is not a YouTube video. This is not purely for entertainment purposes, even though you may listen to it for that. The stuff that I talk about here, you're not going to remember every word of what I say. You're not going to remember 95% of what I say every single day here on the show. But 100% of what I say is stuff that you need to remember, that you need to apply. And if you do remember and if you do apply, you will see the immediate results, positive results that it creates in your life. So why would you limit yourself to only getting 5% of the information or applying only 5% of what you hear when you could apply 100% of it if you would just be disciplined enough to take notes on it? Now, I understand you may listen to this while you're driving, maybe while you're working out, maybe while you're taking a walk, maybe while you're getting ready for work in the morning. I understand that. So listen to it one time through in that way that you usually do, and then make sure you listen to it again a second time when you got a pen and paper ready or a computer ready or wherever you take notes, so you can take notes on what you're hearing here, because I guarantee you are missing stuff. There's stuff that is slipping through the cracks of your psyche simply because as a human being, you cannot process every single thing that I'm saying and then remember to remember it and remember to apply it and then actually apply it in the time that it takes me to say it and then say the next thing. I tend to talk a little bit faster than the average person when I get on this microphone, especially for those of you who may listen to the show on more than 1x speed. You know what I'm talking about, right? You're not going to remember everything that I say here. So I would suggest you do yourself a favor. Help give your mind, your memory rather, give your memory a crutch and take notes when you're listening here to this show. Because this is not the normal podcast material. All right. This is not the normal, you're listening to some person who's already been through the ringer being interviewed for the 300th time with the exact same talking points about some garbage ass book that a publisher decided to put together because the person's famous. That's not what this show is about. All right, this is not another person who decided to dive into the personal development space because they saw an opportunity there and they're saying all the same stuff that everybody else is saying. This is not that either. And I want you to understand that this is, and I think those of you who've been listening to the show consistently, you know this already, but sometimes you got to remind people. You got to remind them of what they need to remember. They got to remember to remember. Right? So you got to let them know. And I've heard an online marketing guy, I've heard many marketing guys say this. If you never heard this, I'll tell you it now. I'll probably do a whole episode on this in the future. I need to write this down now that I'm saying it. Is that when you have something that is of high quality and of high value, and you know it's of high quality and high value, and you know it will help people out, it is your duty, it is your moral obligation to make sure you get that material into the hands and into the minds and into the whatevers of the people who need it, however they need to get it. So being that this show is of the level that it is, being that the material is what it is, and me knowing this firsthand, because I'm the one putting the material together and then putting this material out, it is my moral obligation to make sure I remind you on a consistent basis of the value of what you're getting here, and remind you that, hey, you better make sure you're getting it all. All right, don't let what you get from this show be like a spaghetti strainer. Or you know those spaghetti, any of you haven't make spaghetti, you know you got those plastic strainers, or maybe you got a metal one. But when I was growing up, we had a plastic one. You pour all the spaghetti out of the boiling pot into the strainer, then all the water would go out, but then you keep the spaghetti. But I want you to understand, you don't need the strainer. All right, you need the whole pot. All right, you need something that's not going to have, nothing's going to strain out. All right, don't let the water strain out of what you're getting here on the show. You need to get it all. All right, now that I've said that, given my, I don't even know what I want to call that, my primer to you all to make sure you're getting 100% of what I'm giving you here on this show every day, not just today, but every day. Let's get into our points. The topic, once again, is the preparation is the separation. It's actually perfect timing that I said what I said, and I didn't even plan that. But point number one. First thing you get when you make the decision to prepare is you grant yourself peace of mind. The great philosopher Seneca, who is credited with being one of the people who is a forefather, I guess we'll say, of the concept of stoicism. He said that which has been long expected comes more gently. So even if you're dealing with a situation, or you're about to deal with a situation, or in the past you have dealt with a situation that wasn't exactly what you wanted, maybe it wasn't so pleasant, maybe it was something that you wish you could have avoided, maybe it's something that you wish you could undo and have never have occurred in your life, the more you were prepared for it, the more you already knew ahead of time, the further ahead of time you knew that it was going to happen, the much easier you can deal with that. Even if the situation is still unpleasant, you still don't like it, you still don't want to have dealt with it. If you knew it was coming, you handle it a whole lot better than if it just surprised you out of nowhere. Would you agree? The more prepared you are for whatever's coming your way, the more easily you can handle what's coming your way. So even though all of us will deal with situations in our lives that we don't really want to have bothering us at all, the ones that surprise us and come out of nowhere are those are the ones that are the most uncomfortable. It's not the situation itself that makes it so uncomfortable. It's the fact that we didn't know it was coming that made it uncomfortable. Now, if we know it's coming, then it doesn't bother us as much. We're not as disturbed about it because we knew 6 months ago that this was going to happen. So we're ready for it. We can begin to mentally prepare for the situation before it actually happens. And this is one of the principal tenets of Stoicism. It's meditating on what's going to happen in your future, maybe learning from the things that have happened in the past, looking at things that are happening now in the present. And if something seems to be inevitable, and one of the principal things that Stoicism talks about is meditating on your death, the fact that all of us one day are going to die. The more prepared you are mentally for the fact that that's going to happen one day, the more easily you can accept it when it does happen. No matter when it happens, even though you don't know when it's going to happen, but the more prepared you are mentally for the fact that it is going to happen, the better you're able to deal with it. In school, for example, when you studied for the test, it's a whole lot easier to take that test than when you haven't studied and you don't know the material. I mean, simple enough, right? Any students here can tell me that that's wrong. Everyone here has been a student at some point. In sports, athletes often play better in their home games than they play on the road games. Why is that? Why do athletes play better at home games than they play in road games? Because at a home game, you know what to expect. At a home game, you know who all the fans are. At a home game, you're familiar with the locker room. You're familiar with the terrain, whether that be an indoor court or gym or a field or a track or a pool. You're familiar with everything because you're always around it. You get to sleep in your own bed the night before. You get to ride the same route on your way to the venue, on your way to when you're going to the performance. So you're going to the match or the game or whatever it happens to be. But when you're on the road, everything's different. The only thing that's the same when you're on the road game is you got the same teammates, hopefully. and you're playing the exact same sport, but everything else is different. Everything else is foreign to you, and that disturbs people. It disturbs us in unconscious ways. I'm not necessarily saying you're going to be scared or afraid, or that all of a sudden you lose your skills because you had to play a road game 2 cities away, or 2 neighborhoods across if you're playing local sports. But it's the fact that all of these other things that we unconsciously have to deal with that we're not used to, it disturbs us in some ways. And this is why many athletes don't play as well on the road games as they play in the home games, because we're not as prepared for what we're about to come across. And while we can't always predict everything that's going to happen to us in life, the more we handle being prepared for the stuff that we do know about, the more resources will be remaining to apply to what we did not know about. Let me say that one more time. So I want to make sure I didn't lose you on that. Since we cannot predict everything that will happen in our lives, so we all know this. We know that, even though my point here is what we are more mentally prepared for ahead of time, it comes more easily. We understand that we can't be prepared for everything. There have been some surprises in your life. And you think, in 2019, were there any surprises in your life that you just did not know were coming, but they came, whether that be a positive surprise or a not so positive surprise? Of course, there will always be surprises in our lives. And in 2020, you're going to get a whole bunch more surprises, guaranteed. So what I'm saying here is, since we can't predict everything, the more that we handle the parts that we can predict, the stuff that you do know is coming, the stuff that you do know you'll need to take care of, that you'll need to address, the better you address those, here's what happens. Now you've given yourself peace of mind. You're giving yourself mental space. You're giving yourself some space mentally. Now you have this extra, this surplus of mental resource, let's just say, mental energy, attention, focus, that now when something that you didn't know was coming does come, you got some resources to apply to it. But if, on the other hand, you're a person who's not being very disciplined, you're not taking part in preparation for anything in your life, and now everything that happens in your life seems to be like an emergency fire that you have to put out, you have no additional mental resources to put towards the stuff that you didn't even know was happening. You didn't even know it was coming. So if it's a student and you didn't study for the test, now you got to take all your mental ability, and now it's an emergency. You got to figure some things out, or hope you can figure things out while you're taking that test. But if you're already prepared for the test, you're not worried about any questions on the test. And now if the teacher happens to add a couple bonus questions or bonus challenges to the test that you didn't know were coming, you got some mental resources. The prepared student, the one who studied, you got mental resources to apply to those bonus questions, because you can go on cruise control for the stuff that you knew was coming because you studied for it. But those of you who didn't study, the student who did not study, now you got to take everything you got to hope you can pass. I hope you can get a C. Hope you can get a D on that test, if you understand what I'm saying. Point number 2. Today's topic is the preparation is the separation. You are more ready than your competition when you prepare. When you take the time to prepare and get ready ahead of time, before the situation occurs, you're more ready than whoever you're going against, whether that competition is something or someone that you know about, or something or someone that you don't know about. This point number 2 is the essence of the separation day. Something I talk about in my book, Work on Your Game. I also talk about in my book, The Mirror Motivation, which you haven't gotten for free yet. Go to mirrormotivation.com while supplies last. The separation day is every step that you take to be prepared that your competition does not take. That's what the separation day is. So even if your competition is equal to you, and you prepare a little bit and they don't prepare at all, you create a small gap between you and your opponent, right? But that gap is so small that you can't see it, they can't see it, nobody notices it. But every single time you do it and they don't do it, prepare that is, that gap gets a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger, but it's still invisible to the human eye until it's time to perform. Until it becomes so obvious, the gap between you and your competition, it's so obvious that nobody needs to say anything, because the gap between you has grown so wide. Those are the separation days. But it's a very, very small separation, microscopic separation that happens every single time that you do it. That's why preparation is so hard. That's why preparation goes under the umbrella of discipline, because discipline is not easy. It's not fun. It's not exciting. It's not sexy, or it's not highlight worthy. It's not Instagrammable to be disciplined. The results of discipline are all those things, but the act of discipline is none of those things. And this is why many people like to show you what looks like the results of discipline, but there's really no discipline beneath it. That's a house built on sand. All right, you don't want to be that person. The separation day gets you more ready than the competition, or for the competition. And that's saying that if your competition is equal to you, what if you're already way better than your competition. What does the separation day do for you? Makes the gap even bigger. It does not allow your competition to close the gap between where you are and where they are. Because if you're way better than your competition and they know it and you know it and everybody else knows it, I guarantee you there's some people in that group, that competition group, who's working to get closer to you. They're working to catch up to where you're at. They know that they got to be a whole lot better than you are just to catch up because you're already ahead of them. They know they got to work harder than you. Therefore, they're trying to. Therefore, they're angling to. Therefore, they're watching you and looking for holes in your armor, somewhere where they can attack and get at you and catch up to you. The more you prepare, you make that gap bigger instead of letting them make the gap smaller. Now, this is really, really, really something that requires a lot of discipline, because when we find ourselves winning, relatively speaking, or in any situation in life, what happens is we get attacked with the disease of complacency. Complacency is self-satisfaction. It's feeling like, oh, I'm good. I'm taken care of. I don't need to do anything else. I don't need to work any harder. I've done everything that I need to do. Complacency allows your competition to use the separation date against you instead of you using it against them. So it's really hard once you get to a position of winning, a position of success, a position of I'm good, to keep doing that, because you don't have the tangible built-in motivation of seeing somebody in front of you. Everybody's behind you. So what reason do you have to keep working hard? Well, this is the reason why it's very hard for a champion athlete or athletic sports team to, defend their championship, to rerun their championship run, to win back-to-back or 3 championships in a row. It's really hard because complacency sets in. Everybody starts to relax, and everybody who they beat works a little bit harder. Separation day. And over time, now we got a new champion the next year and a new champion the next year. It's very hard to repeat. So it requires everybody to have a strong, high level of discipline to repeat your success, especially when you're in a competitive field, because everybody who didn't win, now they're all after you and the target's on your back, and everybody can see everything you did to succeed because you're the champion, right? So everything you did is on full display. So any holes in your armor will be obvious. You won't be able to hide them like you would if you're the person at the bottom of the pile. And if you happen to be behind your competition, let's say your competition is a lot better than you, and you're the bum at the bottom of the totem pole, like I was as a youth playing basketball, everybody in the neighborhood was better than me. The separation day, what it did for me was it allowed me to slowly close that gap between the people who are better than me and myself. Every single day when I showed up on that third day, showed up every single day and did my work and worked on my game, eventually I closed the gap between myself and everyone else. And it closed in such a way that people didn't notice it while it was closing. But eventually that gap got closed until we were equal. And then I started to create separation from them. Now I want you to understand that didn't take the time it took me to explain it to you, which was about 35 seconds. That took about, I started playing basketball around age 14. That took almost 10 years. All right, that was a long process. We'll say it took between 4 and 10 years. It took me about 4 years to get from starting basketball to when I was playing in college. That was at age 18. And then I signed my first pro contract at age 23. So it was 5 years after that. So it was a 4 to 9 year process. Let's just say that. I want you to understand here. I want to put everything in proper perspective so you know exactly what you're getting into if you decide to take me up on the information I'm sharing here today. All right. Understand you do have a choice as to what you're going to do with this. You can ignore it. You can take it as entertainment. You can apply it 100%. But I want you to understand exactly what you're getting into, that this is not a quick fix when we're talking about discipline and preparation, which is why you don't hear too many people talking about it. When you fail to prepare, as the saying goes, you prepare to fail, right? Any of you ever watched the TV show Shark Tank? If you do know what it is, then you will understand the example that I'm about to give. If you don't know what Shark Tank is, it's a TV show where people who have their own businesses, entrepreneurs, they come onto the show and they pitch the idea of their business or the tangible business that they are already running, and they're looking for investors, people who have a lot more money than them, who will invest money into that business, buy into part of the business. Let's say, for example, if you're running a pie shop, you make apple pies, and you go on Shark Tank and you're going to pitch to there are 5 or 6 investors sitting up on the stage, and they all have more money than you. And you're offering for any of them to buy into your business. In other words, they become an owner in your business, a partial owner, or maybe a majority owner. Maybe they buy the whole business from you, however they want to do it, in exchange for whatever you value that business at. So for example, if I think my business is worth $1 million and I want one of the sharks to invest into half of my business, then they got to give me $500,000. They get 50% of the business. Now we are equal partners in that business, or any other number on that scale from 0 to 100 for whatever amount of money that we are able to negotiate. That's what Shark Tank is. So these entrepreneurs come on that show because they're looking for investors in their business, usually because the entrepreneur needs to expand their operations. Maybe they need more money so they can fulfill orders. Maybe they just need more connections. Maybe they want to get into bigger places so they can get their name out there more. Maybe they just want to expand the reach of their business, and they feel like they've done everything they can on their own. So these sharks, they not only provide money, they provide connections, they provide brand recognition, because many of these sharks are famous people in the business world. So all of these things are assets that the sharks are bringing to the table. So the negotiation happens a little bit on the show, a whole bunch of stuff happens off camera, and that's what the whole show is about. So if you're interested in business in any way, shape, or form, I suggest you start watching some episodes of Shark Tank, because it gives you a good education just on business, on communication skills, presentation skills, and negotiation. Now that I've sold you on Shark Tank, now let me tell you why I'm bringing it up. On Shark Tank, the sharks, these are the millionaire and billionaire investors, the people who have the big money and are looking for businesses to invest in. They're basically the hosts of the show. They have this one phrase that you're going to hear over and over and over again when they're talking to entrepreneurs and they may potentially invest in. It is know your numbers. Know your numbers means every single time an entrepreneur steps into the Shark Tank and presents the concept of their business, whatever their business is doing, the sharks begin asking questions, and almost always the questions are based around numbers. Questions such as, how much revenue has your business done in the last year? How much revenue are you projected to do this year? How much money does it cost you to acquire a customer? How much money does it cost you to manufacture one item of your, whatever your product is? If you're an apple pie shop, how much money does it cost you to make and sell one apple pie? How much money does it cost you to acquire one customer? So how much money are you making on each customer? And know these numbers. These are the numbers that the sharks expect the entrepreneur to know if the entrepreneur is looking to sell even a part of their business. So the entrepreneurs who come on Shark Tank, they are expected to have a strong idea of what questions they will be asked when they step into the Shark Tank. One thing that the sharks are very impatient with, and it usually leads to an entrepreneur not getting an offer of investment, is when the sharks start asking questions about the entrepreneur's business. This is the business that this person owns and runs every day, and they went through this whole process, this screening process, this candidate process, and got on TV to be on national television to pitch their business to 6 sharks who could change the entire trajectory of their business. And the sharks start asking them questions about their business and they don't know the answers. That's the one thing that the sharks are really impatient with. Like, yo, how did you get all the way to being on this ABC nationally televised TV show and you don't know how much it costs you to acquire a customer? And you don't know how much it's costing you to manufacture your product. And you don't know what you're going to do with the money we would give you. You're asking me for $150,000 and I ask you, what are you going to do with the money? And you don't even have a clear answer what you're going to do with the money. Why the hell would I invest money in that? The sharks don't say it in those exact words, but it's pretty damn close. You must know your numbers. And let me tell you what I heard one entrepreneur team did when they went on Shark Tank. Because sometimes the business owners who come on Shark Tank, it's not just one person. It'll be multiple people who started a business. Sometimes it's a team. I've seen 4 or 5 people in the business together come on to present. I've seen one person do it by themselves, but there was one team, it was 2 guys. And they ended up, I don't even remember what their business was, but they made the pitch of their business and they got an investment that they were happy with and did a deal, and their business took off and was doing really well. And someone interviewed them after they were on Shark Tank and asked them, how did you prepare for your opportunity to be on Shark Tank? What did you do to get ready to be on the show? And here's what the entrepreneurs said. They said they went back and watched every single episode of the Shark Tank TV show that had ever come on in the history of the show. And the show's been running for several seasons now. So we're talking maybe, 50 to 100 episodes that they sent and watched every single show. And while they were watching the show, this is what they did. And this harkens back to what I told you at the top of this episode. They wrote down every single question that any one of the shark investors ever asked. So when one of those entrepreneurs came on the show that they were watching, one of the reruns, they wrote down every single question that the sharks asked. And this is 5 or 6 people throwing you questions in rapid succession. They wrote down all of them. They said it was about a couple hundred questions that the sharks had asked when they logged every question in aggregate, right? Then this is what they did, these 2 entrepreneurs. But this is before they appeared on Shark Tank. They would drill and rehearse asking themselves these questions and making sure that they had clear and precise answers to every single one of them. Therefore, this is what their theory was. When we get on Shark Tank, now we've gone through 10 seasons of Shark Tank and wrote down every question that's ever been asked of every entrepreneur that's appeared on the show. They had a pretty good idea that any question that they would be asked when they appeared on Shark Tank would probably be one of the questions that they had logged, the hundreds of questions that they had logged from the past. In other words, they had prepared their asses off so well that there was nothing the sharks could possibly say to them that they wouldn't be ready for. That was their theory. Now, is it possible that one of the sharks would come with some new question out of left field they had never asked before after hundreds of these shark interviews? Maybe. But did that happen? No. Every question that those two entrepreneurs got asked in the Shark Tank that day was already on their list that they were preparing from before they had even appeared on Shark Tank. And that due diligence paid off because they ended up landing a deal and getting their business invested in on Shark Tank. Doing your homework is what they did, basically. That's basically what I just explained to you. Doing your homework. It provides peace of mind and it separates you from those who didn't do their homework. There was a guy I played basketball with probably had to be about 7 to 10 years ago, a guy named Chris. He was in Miami. I don't know where he came from, ended up in Miami. And he had played high school basketball. He was from Texas. He had played high school basketball in Texas with a guy named Darren Williams and a guy named Bracy Wright down in, I forget where in Texas they were from. But Darren Williams was a guy who played in the NBA for several years, was an all-star. Bracy Wright played at the University of Indiana. He played overseas for several years. These guys were all-American high school basketball players. And this guy, Chris, was one of their teammates. And Chris was telling me one day we were working out, and he was a bigger guy. He was about 6'7", 6'8". And he played in the post a little bit. And he gave me this little nugget one time. He wasn't even trying to give me one, but he said it, and I always remembered it. He said he was always taught when he played basketball, he was like a big guy. He was more like a forward type of player in basketball, that when you're running down the court on offense as a big guy, you want to try to get that post position early on your defender to try to seal them off, get post position really close to the basket, and get open so you can get an easy shot if your teammate sees you and passes you the ball. He said my coaches always called that doing your homework. Getting yourself into position offensively before the defender gets himself into position so that you have an advantage over them before the battle even begins. That is doing your homework on the basketball court. I told you how these entrepreneurs did their homework for Shark Tank just by watching TV. But they were taking notes on every single thing that they heard, and it separated them from those who didn't, and it made it really easy for the sharks to see what business they'd be investing in, and then it made it easy probably because they had a good business, not just because they wrote down every question. Listen, you can go write down every question that the sharks ever said. It doesn't mean you're going to get $100,000 investment in a business if you don't have anything to offer. But because they did their homework combined with having a solid business, they were able to land a deal. Point number 3. Today's topic is the preparation is the separation. When you enact the discipline to prepare, you give yourself psychic powers. Yes, you heard me right. You become a psychic when you have the discipline to prepare, because when you are prepared, what you do is give your mind a break, as I talked about in point number 1. A lot of what you're about to face, now you're already ready for it. You are mentally ready for it, and if it requires some physical preparation, you are physically ready for it. You are expecting what's coming. So when it does happen, your mind doesn't have to go into overdrive and trying to assess everything and try to figure everything out, because you already knew it was coming. You already expected it. So when it comes, you're ready to deal with it. You already saw this before it even happened. Then here's what happens. Because your mind has free space to see other stuff, it doesn't have to focus on the things that you already knew was coming because it was already ready for that. You can put that on autopilot. You can let your subconscious handle that. Because your mind now has this free space, your conscious mind, it sees things that you would otherwise not see. You notice things that you would otherwise not notice because your mind would be fully occupied, because your mind doesn't need to be fully occupied. Because you did the preparation, now you see other things that other people don't see because they didn't prepare like you did. They prepared to fail, but you failed. They prepared to fail by failing to prepare, but you prepared to succeed. So now you have space. You see other stuff, things that you would otherwise not see. And here's the thing that I want you to notice. You ever get a really great idea right when you were about to fall asleep, or right when you had just woken up, or maybe while those of you who like to do any type of endurance sports and you get into that flow, like running or swimming or biking, you get into the flow, or even playing basketball or something like that. You just get into this state of flow where you consciously don't really need to think anymore, but your mind is still working, it's still on, and you get these insights to solve problems that have nothing to do with the sport you're playing or the thing that you're doing or the shower that you're taking. You get some insight that has nothing to do with that very activity you're doing in that moment, but it's like the perfect result. It's like the perfect answer. It's like, man, why didn't I think of that before? You know why that happens? You know why you get these great ideas right before you fall asleep and right when you wake up, or when you're in the shower, or when you're driving your car, or when you're on an 8-mile run? It's because your conscious mind is given a break. When you get into a state of flow, a state of doing something that you have on autopilot because you're prepared for it, either because you've done it so many times or because you anticipated everything is going to happen, your conscious mind is able to take a little bit of a break, is able to stop yelling at you through your ears, through your mind so much. And here's what happens. Your subconscious mind is able to speak to you then. Your subconscious mind is now able to connect with you and get its points across to you, because the subconscious mind speaks at a whisper. See, the conscious mind speaks at the tone that I'm speaking at, the volume that I'm speaking at right now. The subconscious mind speaks at a whisper. In other words, the subconscious mind could be speaking right now at the same time that my conscious mind voice is speaking, but you can't hear it because the conscious mind is way too loud. And I talked about all this in a mental workbook. If you don't have it, go get it at workonmygame.com/workbook. The subconscious mind talks to you, and understand the subconscious mind sees things that the conscious mind will never see. But the subconscious can't get its points across to you when the conscious mind is being overworked, when the conscious mind is doing all the talking. This is why preparation and routine allow you to get in better touch with your subconscious mind. Because the more you are prepared and the more you have routines in your life, the less you have to consciously think about, decide about, look at, and assess right there in the moment. You allow your mind to relax. You allow your mind to calm down. You allow your mind to take a little bit of a break, even though you're still awake. And your subconscious mind is able to give you insights, is able to notice things, is able to see things that you otherwise would not notice, even though they're right there in front of your face, because your conscious mind is talking too loud. You can't hear the subconscious. If you want to learn more about how all of that works, again, that's in the mental workbook, which you can get at workonmygame.com/workbook. And this is why, if any of you knows a person, or maybe you are a person who, or let's just say if you know someone, it'd be easier for you to see it in someone else maybe than you can see it in yourself, unless someone has pointed it out to you. You're a person who just seems to be very at ease. You ever know somebody who just seems to be, even though they get a lot done, they may be a hardworking individual, they get stuff done, they're not a dumb person, they're a smart person, they're sharp, and they are on top of their stuff, but they seem to always be so at ease. They seem to be always so calm, so relaxed. In their manner, not even in one particular thing, but just in their overall manner as a human being. The reason why people can grow to become like that, yes, some of it is just their natural personality, who they are as a person, but a lot of it is from the fact that they're able to calm their minds. They're able to quiet. They have learned how to quiet their conscious minds. And being able to quiet your conscious mind is not a byproduct of a certain amount of success, or doesn't mean that you are smarter or dumber than anybody else. It has nothing to do with what your chosen vocation, whether you're male, female, young, or old. It's just something that you learn. Some people come across it unknowingly. They don't even know that they do it. It's just part of their nature as human beings. And other people, they work at it and they're able to manufacture this way of being, this style as a person. One way that you can get yourself into this is, first of all, by reading the mental workbook, as I mentioned twice already. Another way is through meditation. Meditation is the practice of calming your mind, quieting your mind, allowing your mind to go quiet is a better way of saying it. Rather than, you're not forcing your mind quiet, you're allowing it to go quiet. And there's a huge difference between the two. It's one thing if you yell at your child to be quiet, and there's another thing if you just allow your child to be quiet. Or there's two different things. I don't have kids, but I think they're different. This is how you allow the subconscious mind to talk to you. And the subconscious mind delivers insights, and it sees things and it understands things that the conscious minds of us humans, never see, never notice, will never know about. That's why you got to learn to calm yourself. Meditate every day. If you don't know how to do that, go online. YouTube it. There are meditation apps out there. Meditation, remember, is a practice. It's not a science. In other words, there's no right way to meditate. It's a practice. You are always practicing. I don't care if you've done it 500 times in a row every day. It's always a practice. So don't be sheepish about trying it or starting it or getting into the practice, because no matter how often you do it, you will always be practicing, because there's always a way that you can calm your mind. You can learn to do what Russell Simmons called moving meditation. That means you'll be wide awake. You could be walking down the street and still meditating. So meditation does not mean sitting Indian style with incense burning and your eyes closed and humming some tune that only you know what the hell you're saying. It doesn't have to be that. I meditate every day and I don't do that. All right, I don't sit with my legs crossed, the Indian style, as they say. My legs are too long and my hips are too narrow. I can't sit like that even if I wanted to. But understand, meditation is an act of calming the mind. The better you learn how to calm your mind, the more insights you'll be able to garner from yourself, not from others, but from you. Let's recap today's topic, which is preparation is the separation. And meditation is part of preparation. That's the reason that I brought that up. When you meditate, you're preparing your mind to calm down. So when you face a situation that many people will call stressful or anxiety inducing, or is just too much going on, or allows people to get frazzled. You ever seen somebody just get so frazzled that it's like they're having a nervous breakdown because there's too much coming at them at the same time? When you meditate, you are practicing for dealing with those type of situations so that you don't go into overdrive, so that your engine doesn't blow a gasket, your mental engine, if you understand what I'm saying. Again, read the mental workbook and I explain that in more detail. Today's topic, once again, as we recap, preparation is the separation. Definition of preparation is the action or process of making ready or being made ready for use or consideration. Preparation is an offspring, goes under the umbrella of discipline. People who have discipline, they value being prepared, and I'll tell you why. Number one, you get peace of mind. Seneca said that which has long been expected comes more gently. The more prepared you are for whatever is coming, the more easily you will handle it. It's like if you're prepared for the test at school, it's easy to take the test. If you're unprepared for the test, then you're sweating through the test because you have no idea what's on that paper. You have no idea what the answers are. When you can predict what's going to happen, you give yourself mental space to deal with other things. You give yourself peace of mind, knowing that you can handle what's coming because you already prepared for it. Now you can look around at the other things that are happening, and I guarantee there are other things that are happening that you would never notice if you were not prepared. And since we can't predict everything that's always going to happen in life, this allows us to be better able to handle the unexpected surprises of life when we have mental space with which to address them. Point number 2. You're more ready than your competition. This is about the separation day. Separation day is every time you show up and decide to prepare, the people who fail to prepare, you create a small gap between you and them. But understand that that gap is not obvious, it's not tangible. You can't touch it, you can't feel it. You cannot even show it to anybody else until it becomes so obvious that everybody can see it. But it's not obvious while you're actually doing it. That's why this is under the umbrella of discipline, because it's very hard to keep showing up, doing work every single day when you don't have anything tangible to show for it. And that's why discipline is what it is. On Shark Tank, they say, know your numbers. Don't let the sharks ask you a question about your business that you cannot answer, because that doesn't make sense. Why would anybody invest money in your company if you don't even know anything about it? And one team of entrepreneurs went on Shark Tank having prepared for every single question that the sharks had ever asked in the history of the show. So any question that they got asked, presumably they would be ready for it. And that's exactly what happened. They ended up doing the deal. Point number 3, you get psychic powers when you prepare, because when you're prepared, you give your mind a break, your conscious mind, that is. Because a lot of what you're about to face, you're already ready for it. You expect it. So when it happens, you don't go into overdrive having to assess it. And then because your mind is free, your conscious mind, it allows your unconscious mind to start talking to you, allows your subconscious to start speaking to you, allows you to give you insights. This is the reason why you get great ideas when you're falling asleep, just waking up, playing sports, or you're in the shower or driving your car, because your conscious mind is able to take a break. You're on autopilot. The subconscious is then allowed to talk to you because it speaks in a whisper that you otherwise cannot hear over the how do I say this word? Cacophony. I think I said it right. Cacophony of your conscious mind. But it can't get through to you when the conscious mind is being overworked. That's why preparation and routine help you get better in touch with your subconscious, better in touch with your insights, better in touch with the true essence of who you are, because you are willing to prepare. Work on your game. Dre all day. Hey, this is Dre all day. If you enjoy this mental game stuff that I talk about on video every day, then I put together a simple master class that will give you one key tip for developing what I call the bulletproof mindset. All you need to do is go to workonmygame.com/bulletproof. Is the link right here, and it's down below in the video descriptions. Just click on it, take you right to the page. I'm going to give you that video. It's about 20 minutes long. This masterclass I put together, one key tip for developing a bulletproof mindset. And when you get that special masterclass free video, I'm also going to make you a special offer to get the full bulletproof mindset experience. So just go to that link that you see right here, and I'm going to show you how to develop that bulletproof mindset right now. So if you like this video that you just watched, I'm going to show you how to take it to the highest possible level. You ready for that? Let's do it.